So the following conversation that you'll hear is a client who ordered a windstorm rated door it's an Assembly 1 actually. Let me tell you what Assembly 1 is by ASSA ABLOY. Assembly 1, they have different assembly numbers, and this was a flush door. So it's an Assembly 1. It's a windstorm door. It's Assembly 1, and okay, so a single door Assembly 1. That means that the design pressure where water infiltration is not required is 150 psf plus or minus 150 psf. If water infiltration is required, it's plus or minus 50 psf. So in Assembly 1, when it's flush, that's going to require a 14 gauge minimum gauge of the steel. That Assembly 1 is also going to require a multi-point lock. Okay. Now hinges, in terms of hinges, you're able to use continuous hinges. There's a variety of continuous hinges that are permissible, so long as the hinge is permissible for use on this windstorm door. The hinge that we elected is. And what you're going to hear is the client came and picked the material up. Part of the 2-point lock, or the multi-point lock, which is a 2-point lock on an Assembly 1, it's a multi-point lock. It happens to be a 2-point lock. We went with a Sargent 7000 series. The rod was lost on site. The lower rod, the rod guide, and another piece. Client couldn't find the material. So client, you hear immediately that they went and made one. So that's a problem. That's a needle scratch. That door is no longer windstorm rated, so you wouldn't do that. The correct rod, the factory is shipping the replacement material within 2 business days. So the client crafts a rod so that it'll work, then goes to the job and realizes the door won't fit. So this ties into the conversation we had originally when quoting the door and then when ordering the door. How wide do you need it to be? It's a typical common 3.0 size. Are you sure? It's you're dealing with an expensive heavy door that's going to have a continuous hinge. Full mortise is what I used, or concealed is what it's called as well, because it's a cleaner look. Well, with the hinge that was elected, you need a 5/16 pre-fit on a square edge door. Okay, you need 1/8 of an inch over on the other side, so that's 7/16 total pre-fit. So 35 and 9/16 wide doors for full mortise or full concealed hinges is typical and common. Client gets the material, it doesn't fit. Expresses the concern that the door was wrong. It's not wrong. We measured it when he was here. It's right. And what you have is a condition of, as the client concedes, it's no longer a 36 or a 3.0 wide opening. So really important to measure that. Take the smallest dimension. If you measure it top, middle, and bottom, you're going to work from the smallest dimension, because we're literally pre-fitting the door for a full concealed or full mortise continuous hinge. Is what it is. So let's switch to the screen view and let's take a closer look at some supporting information. And the moral of the story is the client's not wrong. What frame is perfectly 3.0? Well, yeah, they all should be perfectly 3.0. I fully realize that in reality, in practicality, they're not always that. But had I allowed the 1/8 of an inch margin that the client would have liked to have seen, what would have been the call that I would have gotten? Your gap is 1/4 inch on the lock side. It's not acceptable to the client. So we're making the door to what the template for the hinge says is the bottom line, and that's what it needs to be. So let's just look at some supporting information. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Architectural Builders Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
So this morning I fabricated a bottom rod because I didn't hear back from you. And I got that to work, but you got one coming in, the right one. But I had one just so I could go and install that door. So we got there this morning and did what we had to do. And the door is about an 1/8 inch wider than what it should have been.
Yeah.
I threw my tape up on it when I was there the other day, and I knew it was undersized, but I didn't really sit there with a pencil and paper and do the math. It probably should be 35 and 7/16 and 35 and 9/16.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a solution. So we dry fit it, and I shimmed it and jammed it over, and I got a crack of a 16th or less on the strike side, which I don't like. Sun will hit it, paint, whatever. So what's your opinion on a half surface Roton hinge?
Well, yeah, half surface is, the way to go. It's just a matter of, lead time. I don't stock any half surface. I have a narrow ABH is who I would use for continuous hinges generally, and I like it because it's that real narrow one. And I emailed you a link to it so you could see it, but I only sent it because because it's what I keep here. I had a half surface like 2 years ago, and it's been 10 years, and I sell one a decade.
Yeah. So the ABH still, it picks up 5/16, right?
Well, it's full surface. It's just a narrow one.
Oh, the full surface. Okay. Yeah. Well, I just need another 16th heavy, to be honest with you. And so I thought that a half surface would pick up half a leaf. That would pick it up.
It would. Yeah, it definitely would. It's just a matter of getting your hands on one.
Oh, you can get. If you can, I can get one.
Well, that's what I mean. But it's just I check select. I check. ABH is going to be a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Hager is going to be factory order. So yeah, like you said, if the
rush is over. The rush is over. I already went there. I pulled off the job. I'm like, I'm not going to hang this here. Not going to work. So I pulled off the job. So the rush that I put you through, and then I was trying to get that door hung, it's irrelevant at this point. I just didn't want to do it. I'm like, that is just too tight. I'm not going to hang it and get a call back, especially when the sun beats on that door and it swells up.
Thermal bowing, yeah.
So, and I threw my tape on it when I was at your shop, and I didn't do the math. I realized it wasn't 3/4. I knew it was undersized, but I should have maybe studied it a little bit closer. I didn't.
The door width is the right width for the hinge. It's just your frame's got to be a little snug.
The door. So what should the door be then if you do the math on it? I got 35 and 7/16.
It should be 35 and 9 is what it should be.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? That hinge is not 3/16.
Yeah, but you've got to have some margin, for the lock style, 1/8 of an inch over there.
I know, but you don't have it. That's what I'm saying. A hollow metal door standard is 35 3/4, 36-inch frame, 8-inch both sides. Oh, I see. So you're losing the 1/8 on the side. I see. 9/16, I guess technically supposed to work.
Yeah.
I guess it's supposed to work.
At ABH 110, that sucker staring at that, they're telling you 5/16 is what they're telling you.
Right.
So
exactly.
So the door should be 7/16 undersized from the nominal door width.
7/16 undersized from the nominal, but it's not. It's 9/16. So the nominal size 3/8. That's only 3/16. Wait.
So if the door is 35 and 9/16, and you need a total of 7/16 margin, those two equal 36.
Yeah, I guess in the perfect world, huh?
With a CNC turret, the factory punching stuff, yeah, nominally, absolutely. That's what the hinge manufacturer says. But if it's doesn't leave any plus or minus, it leaves it leaves no minus.
Right, and that's the thing. So, of course, this is a 40-year-old building and poured in place concrete frame, and what has happened is, it's probably a 16th here and there.
Yeah.
16th adds up in door talk, and that's what I got. So, I got very minimal on the strike side. I'm like, if I put this on, they paint the door and the sun hits it and swells, it ain't going to work. So the door is correct, which is fine. I can accept that. But I think if I do the half surface, that's going to pick up the eighth that I need. Die eighth.
It will. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I need to go with that, right?
Let me pull up a template for a half surface.
Yeah, it's going to be half of that 5/16 will be 5/32.
Half surface. An A211, the template. Yeah, you're going to have lots of room there if you go to half surface.
Right, I'll have plenty. I'll pick up 5/32. I'll pick up a bunch, and then I can, even if it's too much, I can always bring it back because it's surface. I can toy with it.
Right.
But you don't want to give me that hinge, or you want me to get it?
Oh, I'll order it for you. Yeah, you can bring back the other one. It's just a matter of, it's going to be a couple of weeks to get my hands on one. I'm happy to do that.
Want me to bring it back to you? I've already put the package, and I actually dry fit it and everything else. So I don't want to bring something back that you can't sell again, Rich.
Well, if it's new, if someone's going to be able to, if holes haven't been drilled, you're in good shape.
No, I haven't done anything to it. I just took it off, dry fit it, and shimmed the door over to it.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna take the screw pack that you've not opened, and I'm gonna stretch wrap it back to the hinge.
Okay. I don't want you to lose out on it. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm not. It sounds like it's 100% resellable.
Oh yeah, it is.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Well, what I'll do is, you want me to email you a link to the half surface hinge that I would order?
You can do that. You can do that. I think that's my solution. I'm not trying to make this job difficult, honestly, but I do like to do it once.
I couldn't agree more. The only reason to go with the full surface narrow one that I have is because it's on the shelf right now.
You got a full surface?
I've got the ABH full surface in stock. Yeah, I like it because it's the narrow one. It's not the 780-210 that's super wide. It's nice and petite. So you can,
on the jam side, what's it show, about an inch, 7/8, something like 15? 16?
Let me pull it up. I can tell you exactly.
I'm toting the door around right now, so I think it's like 15, 16 is I think what that is. Which would work. I already checked my frame on 1.25 inches there. Is it a heavy duty one too?
The only thing they actually make is what Hager would call HD. So that hinge, they don't give us a good. Their drawing doesn't give us a good dimension on what the. So the overall width of the entire hinge is 3 3/16. So each leaf is roughly half of that. So each leaf is a total from the center line of the axis of pivoting. It's about 1.5 inches either way, 1 9/16 inches.
But that's the center line, because I don't know who I pulled up quickly on the job, it's a unequal hinge. And I think I had 15/16 on one of them.
Yeah. So that's an A570. Is that what I have? Yeah, A570. So what they're showing me is about 1 inch and just heavy on 1 in 15/32 on the frame portion. So it would work on aluminum jam if it had to, 1.5 inches. And then the door leaf from the center line is 1 in 11/16.
Yeah, the door leaf, I'm not worried. It's a flush door. It's the frame. So I took a picture of what I pulled up on the half surface, and it was the ABH A540.
A540 or the A. Let's take a look.
but it doesn't say it's heavy duty. That was just something I pulled up on a picture so I can take the dimension of it.
Full surface. Let's go back to half surface.
Give me two of those. Can you give me
half
two?
Surface.
Can you find them? It's got a number on it.
Yeah, the 540. You know, they're variations on a theme at that point. But I wouldn't use the the 540 is nice because it's smaller. The door half is smaller.
So, as far as all my wind and rating and impact and all that, that's not going to affect it with a different type of hinge, right?
No, it's not. It's intended for a continuous hinge. I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
Regardless of the installation, full surface, half mortise, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, your door is right in a perfect world, but what frame is exactly 36 inches all the way top to bottom?
I hear you.
I'd like you to show me one of those.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Especially when they're 40 years old, filled with concrete. You know what I mean?
I don't think I could produce one.
I know. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, I was thinking, man, that thing should have been 716. That's what I thought. My math. And that would have given me a little bit more. I'd rather have, smaller than bigger stuff, stuff in the box there. But so anyways, I talked to your girl. She's going to give me a bottom rod for that and ship it directly to me. I said, great. I mean, I fabricated one. I had to go to Home Depot, buy some 3/8 steel rod and tapped it, both ends, two different threads, 3/8 by 26 and 3/8 by 16, 24 and 16. And I got it to work, and I made my own bolts on an old Jackson I had sitting on the shelf.
Yeah, I took part of.
Yeah, I was happy to do it today. I had my guys. I was ready to do it, and then I fell into that. So, well, I appreciate you calling me back, Rich. 2 weeks for your hinge there. I'll talk to the builder if he can wait that long. If not, I guess I'll try to find one myself. But hell, you can get one, can't you? No?
Yeah, like I said, I can order it. I just don't know anyone that has them on the shelf, whether it be Pemco or Select or Hager. That full surface was only because it's on the shelf. If that rod, if Valerie gets that rod out of Sargent here on Monday, I'm thinking, that full surface is here. But
okay. Well, I like the half mortise or half surface myself. I think that's all I need, and that would work. And so, if you're willing to take that back for credit, I mean, I could throw it on the shelf. I never used full mortise ones. They don't fit hollow metal.
It's no problem. Yeah, no. I mean, yeah.
Okay. If it was a full surface, I would keep it because I use those for hollow metal. I don't use full mortise because having to rip if it's a wood door, ripping it down. I just don't use them. It's myself. Okay. If you can get it in a week or so, then I'll go with it.
Well, I'm going to order it from ABH, and I will let you know as soon as it arrives.
Is it a full surface you're thinking, or the half?
Half surface.
Perfect. That 540, right?
Yes, 540. Yeah, it's an A540 HD CO79. That's what it is.
Perfect. That's what I need. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate you calling me back.
Of course. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. So the door that the client ordered was going to be a 3068 inch and 3/4 14 gauge galvanized flush polystyrene core prepped for a Sargent 7013-15 multi-point lock, undersized and reinforced for the ABH A110 LL hinge, and a surface mount closer right-hand reverse. Okay, so first, let's take a look at what this assembly 1 means. And Seco and Curry's, meaning Assa Abloy, does a really good job with making it easy on distributors so that we know what is required. So this document, and I'm scrolling through here because these have lights. Wrong document. These are approvals. All right, pairs of doors. We'll scroll through until we get to a single door. Here we go. So the client, and I don't recall what the client's requirements was per code from the authority having jurisdiction, but it meant we had to have Assembly 1. So I believe it was 70 PSF, water infiltration not required, something like that. And it literally led us to, well, maybe it was higher, but an Assembly 1 is what solved the problem. It obviously was higher than 100 because it's the only one that is higher than 100 when it's water infiltration not required. So that means it's an Assembly 1. So when you're looking at this, the question is water infiltration not required or is required? And then you just come down here to the design pressure. Well, this ended up being an Assembly 1. That means it's a multi-point lock versus Assembly 2, that's a rim device, versus Assembly 3, that's a cylindrical lock, versus Assembly 4, that's a mortise lock, latch bolt and deadbolt, concealed vertical rod, and so on. So multi-point lock is what the client had to have. We come down to the table. Assembly 1 is a minimum 14 gauge. By SECO, it would be a medallion, regent, or an imperial. You've got 150 plus or minus design pressure, maximum size, in or out swing, out or in swing. In swing not applicable for water infiltration. This is an outswing. It's Florida, so a lot of doors are outswing. Multi-point lock tells you what you can use. I like Sargent. I elected to use Sargent. Notes, there are no notes associated. We come down to the hinges. These are all good. I elected a continuous hinge because of the 14 gauge weight of the item. Okay, so we used a full concealed continuous hinge. Now the concern with what the client has here is this. The factory was told to make this hinge make the door for the particular hinge, and this is what we're dealing with. Okay, 5/16 is what the factory's looking for on this hinge. 5/16. So what you have here is, salvage some of this. You're going to have your continuous hinge here. I drew a line that's a square edge door. This has to be 5/16 when you've got a square edge door. If you've got a beveled edge door, you're going to need more room. And then you've got 1/8 of an inch here. So 36 minus 5/16 minus 1/8 equal 35 and 9/16. And what I worked with the client was 35 and 9 plus 7/16 equals 36. And again, I acknowledge, if you're a 1/16 of an inch tight anywhere, if you've got one too many layers of paint, you're probably going to want to undersize that even to a greater amount. And I would encourage that the installer use their experience to come up with the absolute right size. Now let's look at something else that's important to study on this. Template. Really important. If you have a beveled edge door, you're going to need 11/32. So it's 5/16 on a square edge door. So the factory was told what hinge we were using. and we were ordering a 3.0, so it's a nominal 3.0. So 1 divided by 32 times 11 is 0.34375. So that's a 32nd greater than 5/16. 34375, 3.34375 minus 0.3125. It's a 32nd. It's tiny in terms of being concerned about it, but at the end of the day, it's ultra crucial that you've got the right prefit. So if his door was 35 and 15/16, which it probably is, I don't know that the factory didn't make a beveled edge door. They could have. They could have. If they did, they would have known to adjust. And the tape measure that we measured here would not have easily detected a 32nd of an inch out of whack. So that door should be square edge. So the importance is really knowing. And honestly, if it was me, if I was doing this installation, I would be always looking for a 1/16 of an inch because I could easily shim that out. And all you're looking to do is to get it to work correctly. And that's what has to happen. Now, if you're dealing with fire doors, you've got to be really concerned about that because NFPA 80 is extremely clear about what is and is not permissible for the pre-width on a fire door. And we'll pull up NFPA 80. NFPA 80. I don't recall what section of the document it's in. Clearance around openings. They've got a clearance here listed for the bottom of the door, and this all relates to the door. This all relates to fire-rated doors. Door clearances do not exceed clearances listed in 4.8.4 and 6317. So let's just continue to scroll through. Aha, we found it. 6317 of NFPA 80, or at least the 2013 edition. The clearances between the top and vertical edges of the door and frame and the meeting edges of doors and swinging in pairs are 1/8 of an inch, plus or minus a 1/16 for steel doors. 1/8 of an inch plus or minus a 1/16 for steel. If you've got wood, they shall not exceed 1/8 of an inch. So playing around with leaving yourself extra margin, you could get in tight with this or this. So hollow metal frames, when they're ordered 3.0, they should be 3.0. Doors that are ordered undersize are going to be right on the money. And that's what they need to be. These factories have been making these doors for decades. They know how crucial very, very small, unmeasurable dimensions are. Okay, and let's wrap this video up on camera. If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos in the sense that, you know, it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something, or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. So, at the end of the day, you don't want to dance around the head of a pin when something doesn't fit. My suggestion is that everything get checked before the client comes to pick the material up, because then you exclude the possibility of, hey, that bottom rod wasn't in the box. Hey, it was. We looked at it together when you were here. Stuff goes to a job site, you've got a $2,000 lock, pieces get pulled out, something gets swept up into the garbage can. And when it comes to hollow metal doors, it's such a hassle to get in position and in place to actually start installing one. It all has to be checked beforehand. All the function holes on the door were checked on that multi-point lock. It's a 14 gauge door. It's technically the heaviest 14 gauge. It's technically the heaviest door and still classified as hollow metal. Now, if you get into bullet resistant, higher levels or mid or higher levels of bullet resistance, they will become 12 gauge doors. But in terms of classic hollow metal, the heaviest that you'll get on a door is 14, then 16, then 18, even 20 gauge. When it comes to the frames, they'll always be the next thicker size. So in hollow metal frames, for a 14 gauge door, you'll have a 12 gauge frame. That's normal. 18 gauge doors have 16 gauge frames. A 16 gauge door should really have a 14 gauge frame, because that frame, that top hinge plate's really doing all the work hanging that door up, holding the door itself up, is what it is. So eliminating the guesswork, making sure everything's correct. Now what the client's going to do is use a half surface hinge. That's going to come, and I've ordered it for him. I'll take his full concealed, put it back on the shelf. He'll take the half surface. The half surface is going to require, that 5/16 is going to be not more than 1/8 of an inch. So he'll have plenty of room to adjust exactly where he wants it. The problem is that his gaps are going to be too heavy. Now you're not going to see it necessarily on the lock side because he'll move the door over, but your gap, he'll need to run that hinge completely so as from the ingress side you won't see it. But if you open the door to 90 degree, you're going to see there's going to be a margin between, and look at the side of the door where the hinge is, you'll see that there's a margin between where that door would need to be otherwise. So is that going to be a problem? Yeah, technically it is a problem, because the assembly wasn't tested to have a 3/16, it'll be a 1/4 or 5/16 gap there, and an 1/8 or a 1/16 inch gap on the lock side. It wasn't tested that way, and under the duress of an inspection, it's not going to work. Now what the problem is, this is Southwest Florida. It's windstorm rated for a reason. Let's say that there's the next storm that will come. There's an excessive amount of damage or a failure, like a homemade bottom rod for a Sargent multi-point lock and a guide. The door fails. There's a paper trail. And it sounds maybe a bit inane, but it really isn't, because if you recall the collapse of the building in Surfside, Florida, there's a paper trail. A few months prior to the cataclysmic event, there was an engineer saying, this is critical, this needs to be addressed immediately and cannot wait. They didn't address it. There's a paper trail. So the bottom line is, it's one small little component of making sure is correct. The original conversation weeks, if not a few months ago, was, don't worry, it's a standard 3.0 door. Got it. When you're doing retrofit, nothing is a standard 3.0 door. When you're doing retrofit, the client didn't want to yank the frame out, as he probably mentioned. I get it, great. But in those instances, you must put a tape measure on it. 9 times out of 10, everything works out swimmingly. It's that one time where you don't have a hammer big enough to beat the door into place. Anyway, any questions on this, or anything other, or any other windstorm or continuous geared hinge or multi-point locks, or anything that goes along with that stuff, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.